Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, do not be fooled by this short-term rejection, because right now the price of Bitcoin is still running into this critical area of support, while this chart is still flashing a bullish signal. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside liquidations coming very soon, alongside Ethereum sitting on the edge of potentially a major break to the downside, while Solana is also sitting on the edge of potentially a break to the downside in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just giving you a quick update on the 3-day Bitcoin chart, and right now we technically still have a massive hidden bullish divergence on the 3-day time frame, and as of right now, the larger trend on the larger time frames is technically still a bullish trend. And so as always, it is important to understand the difference between the different time frames. On the small time frames in the short term, that can flip between bullish and bearish basically every day. But on the larger time frames, looking at the bigger picture, this has been a bullish trend for well over a year now. But during this larger bullish trend, we can see short-term bullish and short-term bearish trends during the larger bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, we can see more clearly the short-term bearish trends and the short-term bullish trends that make up the larger bullish trend. And as of right now, we are potentially in the beginning stages of the next short-term bullish trend. So basically the next leg to the upside in the larger bullish trend, especially if this DXY continues to pull back. Because in case you're new to this channel, this is the DXY, also known as the US dollar index. And basically, when the US dollar index pulls back to the downside, that is often a bullish signal for Bitcoin and crypto. And vice versa, when the DXY is bullish, that is often bearish for Bitcoin and crypto. And so what we are seeing right now in the DXY is actually a continued pullback, which is good news for Bitcoin, especially if this continues moving forward. And so do not be fooled by short-term bearish price action on smaller time frames, because obviously during these larger bullish moves, as I've said time and time again here on the channel, during the larger bullish moves, we can see short-term bearish price action here and there. For example, during this larger bullish move right here, obviously it's very clear that this was a larger bullish move in the price of Bitcoin, but during that larger bullish move on one day right here, we had a flash crash of around 14%, basically straight to the downside. And so once again, that is a 14% flash crash occurring during a larger bullish move. And so that's why I always say it's important to understand the difference between the different time frames. We can see short-term dumps and short-term bearish price action even during a bullish move, just like how in a shorter-term bearish trend, we can see some small bullish price action here and there. And so that's why I'll be keeping a close eye on the DXY, because once again, if this continues pulling back, do not be fooled by short-term bearish price action for Bitcoin, because this is a strong bullish signal for Bitcoin in terms of the larger trend and momentum here on the daily time frame, basically these larger moves. But remember, zooming out to much larger time frames, this is all still currently occurring within a larger bullish trend. And so as always, I'll be sure to keep you up to date on what's happening here in the DXY and many other important charts in these videos every day. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And if we're taking a quick look at this daily Bitcoin chart, right now the daily Bitcoin RSI is still basically consolidating sideways above this previous descending line of resistance. And if we're looking at the last time we saw something similar like this in the daily Bitcoin RSI, that was back here during late September, because we had a massive descending line of resistance similar to what we see right here, and we actually saw a breakout in the RSI and then a retest and somewhat of a consolidation in the RSI over the next couple of weeks. But ultimately, what happened next over the next few months was a larger bullish move that played out over a few months. And so once again, based on the RSI, this is potentially telling us that we're about to begin that larger bullish move if we do not invalidate this breakout by seeing a quick move back to the downside in the RSI, which as of right now has not happened. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, we can see just over the last one day, the price of Bitcoin confirmed a daily candle close basically right on this line of resistance, which was sitting at roughly around 62.6 to 62.7K, give or take. And so as of right now, we don't really have a lot of confirmation confirming this breakout because once again, we ideally need to see a daily candle close well above that resistance and ideally above a previous high in the price of Bitcoin to further confirm the bullish scenario here in the shorter term. And this previous high, if we're looking at the daily candle closes, is sitting at around 64.2k, or if we're looking at the candle wick high, that is sitting at around 65,500. And so once again, in order to become much more confident that we're really flipping back into the bullish direction here in the shorter term, we ideally need to break out above this previous high to actually set a new higher high in place after forming this higher low. And if we see that extra bullish confirmation by seeing a breakout above this previous high, for example, then in that case, that would set up a bullish price target for this pattern right here, which the price target would basically be at around the top of the wedge at around 72 to 74,000. But for now, we are still finding some short-term resistance around this area on the chart. But once again, do not be fooled by short-term dumps here and there because obviously we can still dump here and there even during a larger bullish move. And so basically in terms of the larger moves here in the price of Bitcoin, we're at a stage in the market where we are potentially flipping from bearish back into bullish based on the DXY pulling back and the RSI breaking out. But once again, in order to get that extra confirmation in the price of Bitcoin, we ideally need to see a breakout in the price, not only above this resistance, but above this previous high to cement a new higher high in place. And in order to invalidate that entire bullish scenario that I just talked about, basically reversing from short-term bearish to short-term bullish, in order to invalidate that bullish scenario, we need to see a bounce back to the upside in the DXY and also a move back to the downside again in the RSI, basically bearish signals on the chart, which as of right now have not really happened. And right now, the price of Bitcoin is still finding a lot of support in this price range where we have previously found a lot of support. And this price range is still sitting in between around 60,500 to 61,000. But if we end up seeing a breakback below around 60,500, then in that case, we have this area of support in between 58,000 to 58,500, and this level of support sitting at around 56,500. And so obviously, if we also start breaking below these areas of support on the price chart, those will be short-term bearish signals to look out for. But obviously, as of recording this video, we have not yet broken below these areas of support. And so when it comes to my Bitcoin trading strategy, as of right now, I'm still currently in that long position that I accumulated closer towards these previous lows. And I also added to that position around that recent dip right here. And as of right now, I've already taken a small amount of profits off the table for that trade, and my stop loss is above my entry sitting in profits, which means in the worst case scenario, if we just crash right now and fail this breakout, fail that bullish scenario, I still come away with some profits from this trade. But essentially, I'm just leaving this long position open, especially if we further confirm this breakout here in the price of Bitcoin. Because as I've explained recently here on the channel, the idea around this long position, as always, this is not financial advice, but just for my trading strategy, the idea for this long position is to have it as more of a swing trade for the price of Bitcoin, basically catching the next major move, kind of like this or like this, for example. And so this is not just a short-term scalp trade, because if that were the case, I would have opened around here and closed already right around here. And so instead, once again, I'm looking for that larger move in the market, kind of like what we saw back here. And if you're on the channel back here, you would know that I did actually catch that major move to the upside with a massive trade for Ethereum that had hundreds of % of profit for that trade right back there, if you're on the channel a few months ago. And if you want to take trades just like this for yourself, then the exchange that I'm trading on right now is Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus if you use that link to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive 200 USDT airdrop position just by making a Bybit account using that link and making a deposit and claiming the airdrop. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I will also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see just over the last one day, we took out some liquidity to the upside, and then we've actually moved down towards this area of liquidity to the downside. And so at least as of right now, we still actually have more liquidity to the upside compared to the downside. But with that being said, first of all, we do have this smaller area of liquidity to the downside in between around 60.2k to 60,500. And so we could potentially hit that area before moving back up again. That is a possibility. But as of right now, we still have a lot of liquidity sitting in between around 63,500 to 63.7k. And so either way, it's very likely that a lot more liquidations are coming, either hundreds of millions of dollars of liquidations in this area to the downside, or hundreds of millions of dollars of liquidations to the upside in this price range, or potentially both if we first hit one of those areas and then hit the other area. And of course, if we're zooming out to a larger time frame on the liquidation heat map, as I've said recently here on the channel, we have a lot more liquidity sitting at around 67,500 approximately, or more specifically in between 67.3k to around 67.6k. We have billions of dollars of liquidity right around there. And so eventually when the price of Bitcoin crosses above around 67,500, that will liquidate billions of dollars of short positions. So that is definitely a major price target to pay attention to on the chart. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, right now the price of ETH is coming into contact with a critical level on the chart, which is the 38.2% Fibonacci level of support, sitting just underneath 2.9k, or more specifically around 2860 to 2870. And basically, if we confirm a break to the downside below that level right there, so for example, if we see a weekly candle close confirm well below that level right there, then in that case, the next major retracement level to the downside on the weekly time frame is the 50% retracement level, which is sitting at around 2,500. And 2.5k is also an important level on the charts based on previous resistance in the candle closes right here and previous support that we saw back in Q1 of 2022. And so once again, 2.5k will be the next major price target to the downside if we confirm a break below around 2.8 to 2.9k. And in case you're wondering, below the 50% retracement level, we have the all-important golden pocket sitting in between $2,000 to 2.1k, acting as strong support based on previous resistance and support. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, we can see right now in the somewhat shorter term, the price is still clearly trending in the bearish direction in terms of the short-term trend. But once again, if you're zooming out to that weekly time frame, that short-term bearish trend is potentially just a pullback within the larger bullish trend. And so whether we bounce right here or bounce at 2,500, either way, once again, this is potentially just a large pullback within the larger bullish trend, kind of like what we saw back here or back here, for example, which are basically short-term bearish trends. And right now, the support line for this potential falling wedge pattern is sitting at around 2850, and the resistance line is sitting at roughly around 3240. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 8-hour time frame, right now the price is still running into this area of support, sitting in between around 2850 to 2950. And so as I said in my last video right around here, I said the price is most likely going to consolidate around this area of support, if not see a slight bounce from this area. And over the last one day, we did see a slight bounce, but obviously we're pulling back at the moment, basically still chopping around this area of support. But even if we do see a further bounce back to the upside, as I also said in my last video, even if we see that happen, we are still potentially in this larger choppy sideways price range on the 8-hour time frame. And so ultimately, while the price is still in this sideways price range in between this support and this resistance, which by the way, this resistance is in between 3.2k to 3250 with some more resistance closer towards 3350. And while the price is in between that support and that resistance, we're still looking relatively neutral at the moment on the 8-hour time frame in terms of the trend and momentum. But obviously, if we see a break to the downside below this support, so below around 2850 and below this Fibonacci level, then obviously, at least in the short term, that would be a strong bearish signal for the price of ETH, once again, pointing towards around 2,500 if we confirm that break to the downside below that support. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, just recently we've potentially started to invalidate this bullish divergence that I talked about in my last video. Because like I said in my last video, if the RSI starts breaking to the downside below this ascending line of support, then that would invalidate this bullish divergence. But either way, if it does not invalidate, if the RSI still holds above this line of support right here with a bounce very, very soon, then of course the most likely outcomes for a bullish divergence are usually choppy sideways price action, which is kind of like what we're seeing at the moment, or a slight bullish relief in the short term, potentially over the next few days or so as the most likely outcomes. But once again, if we confirm that break to the downside in the RSI, which right now is very close to potentially happening, then that would invalidate this bullish divergence. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 8-hour time frame, right now the price of Solana is potentially about to confirm a break to the downside below this ascending line of support, which is sitting at around 144 approximately. And basically, if we confirm this break to the downside on the 8-hour time frame or any larger time frame, then in that case, we could potentially drop down towards around 138, which is some major support. We also have some support at around 140. But basically, if we start breaking below these lows right here, then the next major area of support to the downside is in between 120 to 128. And as for short-term resistance, first of all, if we confirm this break to the downside below this line of support, then that previous line of support should become new resistance. But above that line right there, we also have more resistance in this price range, which we have just perfectly rejected from again, which is sitting in between 150 to 155. And we have a level of resistance at around 160 and more resistance in between 167 to 172. But right now, the price of Solana, and as we've seen over the last 1 month or so, is basically still in this larger sideways price range here in the somewhat shorter term, just on the 8-hour time frame. And so until we actually start seeing a confirmed breakout above these highs right here or below these lows right here, until one of those scenarios eventually happens, we're still looking relatively neutral at the moment, basically chopping around sideways in a sideways price range. And so basically, in terms of the short-term trend and momentum, we're looking relatively neutral with very low momentum as of right now. And if you want to trade these moves in the price of Solana or any other crypto, no matter if we're bullish or bearish or chopping around sideways, then check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways like Solana at the moment, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.